that was really morally reprehensible. Now you're kind of trying to act as if you didn't say it, but you did say it. So you could spend the rest of the day thinking about what you said and whether you meant to say it or not.
I do think that the anger driving the reform's popularity is real and understandable. It absolutely is. London and be served by white people. I don't want to be served by... there's a time and place for it, and I do feel that the country needs to be represented in a certain way.
Well, hang on a minute. Wait a second. You like to go into London and be served by white people. Served what? It's where? In a shop? Or what are you talking?
I'll give you an example. You go into Leicester Square right now.
Yes.
You go into any business around you.
I am in Leicester Square. That's exactly. I've just been through it on the way to work. That's exactly where I am. So
you stop off into any store around there and see if the person who serves you, if English is their first language.
But why would you care about that? Why would you mind if they're white or not?
What I mean is this, right? What is the capital of England?
Well, we know the answer. Don't ask me a question that's inane that we already know.
No, because
you've already asked me if I can imagine being in Leicester Square. The answer is yes, that's where I am. Right. So I'm just trying to say, having walked the path you suggest through Leicester Square, having stopped in a shop, which I have done, what difference does it make to me or to you if the person who serves me...
I just can't take this shit from LBC seriously, considering the fact that they're part of the reason reform has taken over the country.
The mango is white. Why would I care about that? Why do you care? What difference does it make?
They can't be Polish white. They can't be Russian white. I'm talking about a British white.
But why? What difference does it make?
You go to Thailand, you go to Bangkok...
Why don't you just answer the question? I keep asking one question. It's very basic. What difference does it make?
They literally can't have it because racists don't actually have a reason. They're like, well, don't you think Britain should be for British? No, I don't really care. When you go to Thailand, you see Thais there in Thailand, don't you? Yes. So don't you think Britain should be for British? No, I don't really care. Oi. Not really people, frankly.
A person of that race. You see a person of that nationality serving you loud and proud.
But the person serving me could well be British. They don't have to be white to be British, do they?
Well, they have to be British. There should be more British people. Their first language is English in certain areas.
Aren't they just consciously racist and don't want to admit it? I think this guy would probably admit that he's racist. Starmer's getting the boot. Who cares? It's not like the Labour Party's going to come up with anyone better. It's going to be some other shadow Blairite who was complicit in the ousting of Corbyn. Classic from LBC, back in 2017. Jeremy Corbyn champions universal benefits with free school meals policy. Is this the nasty face of Corbyn's Labour? It's like a million of these. This was every goddamn British paper. The media truly is the enemy. It's worse in Britain than it is in America, which is crazy to think about, but that's sarcastic? Is it? Because I've seen like a million negative, comparable negative articles from LBC of Corbyn. Is this one specific sarcastic, but the other ones aren't? Or are they all sarcastic? LBC is the UK version of Sam Cedar. No, the fuck it's not. Don't you do that to him. Yeah, apologize to Sam Cedar. What the fuck is wrong with you? Are we still talking about farmers? Look at the tie headline about Corbyn. You mean the one where it was like wearing a tie is a sign of ambition? This is why Corbyn wants to be a dictator? Something like that? LBC is 50-50 right-wing, left-wing. There is no left-wing media in the UK. Every media outlet in the United Kingdom unified to attack Corbyn when he led Labour. There is no left-wing media in the UK. It doesn't exist. Novara? Literally doesn't even exist. Not even real. Novara Media? Oh yeah, man. How many fucking Brits do you think get their news from Novara Media? Left-wing in UK just means not actively racist. It means left critical of the Labour Party. It's nothing. Owen Jones is pretty good. Owen Jones is a fucking influencer, not a mainstream media company.
Aisha, you were sitting listening to that, hearing about Wes Streeting there and the fact that...
They have 1 million subs on YouTube. Okay, guys, be so fucking for real right now. Are you really letting your contrarianism drive you to argue with me on the point that there's no left-wing media in Britain and you're talking about fucking YouTube channels? Are you being fucking for real right now? Jesus Christ, you people are insufferable. You just have to say something every time, don't you? Isn't there some internal filter? Don't you ever think, hey, if I was mentioning this in a personal conversation with somebody, it would come across as trite and contrarian and annoying? You never think this? It never occurs to you, maybe I'm not contributing?
One of his ministerial aides has quit. the cabinet expected to make their views known to the Prime Minister. Just tell us about what will be going through Wes's mind and whether this is the chance for him to now launch this bid that has been sort of rumoured for so long.
Well, I think he will be very much thinking, if I don't go now, I might miss my opportunity, because, as you say, Angela Rayner's tax affairs haven't yet been sorted out. It's unclear whether or not she actually wants to go for the top job. But certainly there's a huge amount of support growing for Andy Burnham, I would say, throughout the PLP. And I think that decision to block Andy Burnham from standing in that by-election did go down really, really badly. A lot of people are very angry about that. And there's a lot of people who, even though they might not be natural Andy Burnham supporters, have definitely warmed to the idea. But Beth is right. There is still currently no clear successor. And changing the face at the top of the party is not enough. You know, what's the new vision? What are the policies? You know, what are some of the solutions to the big, deep structural problems that this country face?
But has it gone beyond that tonight? I mean, you're a Labour peer. What are your colleagues saying about whether this is really now terminal for the Prime Minister?
Gosh, so I feel really difficult. I do feel...
Fuck you. 3 Labour aides quit over 60 MPs demand Starmer's resignation. Starmer's. Isn't it crazy how people were calling for Corbyn's head when Corbyn objectively led the Labour Party to far, far less destruction than Starmer did? Like, Starmer has taken the Labour Party and ground it into the dirt, but he still faces less universal blowback than Corbyn did. Like, even within the Labour Party was acting like Corbyn destroyed the party forever, but Starmer's actually done that. I mean, not forever.
It had been billed as a make-or-break speech for the Prime Minister, but instead of convincing his own MPs he shouldn't resign following Labour's massive losses in last week's local elections, Keir Starmer is now under even more pressure to go. Rebel backbencher Catherine West called the speech too little too late, inviting fellow MPs to call for a leadership election in September. Many have done so, and some ministerial aides have resigned.
It's British Chuck Schumer. I feel like it's worse than that. I genuinely prefer Reform being in charge to Labour. I feel like Reform and Labour are going to herald the UK's destruction at literally the exact same rate. But Starmer doing it further polarizes people against liberalism, whereas at least with Reform and with Farage, people can blame fascism, I suppose, you know?
Let's bring in our political editor, Gary Gibbon.
The fight back has failed. The reset has failed. The numbers are ticking up. Even as we speak, more and more MPs saying Keir Starmer's got to go. As you said, ministerial aides, the expectation that there could be junior ministers quite soon. People saying that the numbers could go up to treble figures tomorrow. But we have a sort of hard stop on this whole process because there is a cabinet meeting in the diary for tomorrow morning. It is extremely hard to see how this situation can carry on ticking up all the way to that cabinet meeting. And those are probably...
I made a mistake. I looked at YouTube chat. Is there a reason I should give a shit about British politics? For some reason, I absolutely don't. I don't know. Do you only care about stuff that personally directly affects you at this exact moment, or are you interested in politics conceptually? Should I not cover this, like states you're not in, cities you're not in? You're stupid. I'm not even engaging with you. Why do we care about Turf Island anyway? I genuinely don't. Are you people like are you doing like an American stereotype? Like you think that you're an island floating on a sea of nothing? Like the world, you're an island? The world doesn't affect you? I have no idea what you're going on about. Because politics is politics. Also, if you want to see the future of the United States, look to the United Kingdom, okay?
Usually pretty dysfunctional affairs, but life can't tolerate that level of dysfunction. And I would not be at all surprised if not right now, then in the coming hours, the Prime Minister will be trying to sound out his cabinet ministers individually. History doesn't repeat itself.
Fascism should take power so they can be blamed. Such a brilliant take, bro. Fascism can't take root in the UK, not meaningfully, because fascism is an antiquated ideology. Neoliberalism is the ideology destroying the United Kingdom, and Farage and Starmer both are advocates for it. The difference is that people might mistake Starmer's destructive behavior for an act of liberalism, whereas with Farage, they could at least blame, you know, a worse ideology. But the trajectory is the same in both cases.
Remember when Margaret Thatcher had to have them in individually to her study and ask them...
So the accelerationist position? No, I just said that they are serving the exact same agenda. That's not accelerationism. It's kind of like imagine you have two politicians and they both represent the exact same set of bad policies, but one's white and one's black. If the black person's in charge, you just fucking know there's going to be a 4-year culture war cycle on how black people are ruining the country. Whereas if it's a white person, at least we can just sort of blame the policies a little bit. It's really just like a blame game, but the country's going downhill either way.
Were they with her or not? The terms of our future are quite possibly being sorted out as we speak. In a hastily assembled room of supporters and party staff, the Prime Minister got a warm reception. Even what sounded like a Wimbledon tennis heckle for a losing player.
Come on, kid!
Here's Starmer.
His central message to his MPs considering bringing him down: voters would not forgive a Labour government repeating the turbulence of Tory infighting, especially in even more volatile times.
We are not just facing dangerous times.
Looks like shit.
But dangerous opponents. Very dangerous opponents. If we don't get this right, our country will go down a very dark path. I take responsibility for not walking away, not plunging our country into chaos as the Tories did time and again, chaos that did lasting damage to this country. A Labour government would never be forgiven for inflicting that on our country again.
He said the scale of the challenges to government hadn't been clear in 2024 and had grown. His responses would grow to meet that.
Incremental change won't...
71 now, 71 MPs calling for his resignation. It still doesn't matter. If any of those MPs actually cared about the future of their country, they would have called for Starmer to resign day one. The fact that they're doing it now just means they're desperately trying to maintain political relevance as an anti-Starmer Labour MP trying to keep their job in the future. It's performative.
Cut it. We need a bigger response than we anticipated in 2024.
He announced a government bill giving powers to nationalise British steel. He said he'd put Britain back at the heart of Europe, though it wasn't clear policy would go beyond the plans already outlined.
Thank you very much.
The room was ecstatic. The early reviews from the primary audience of MPs, not so good.
It's more of the same.
It's a reset of a reset of a reset.
I don't feel like we have enough of a plan.
For some, it was painfully familiar from his recent troubled past.
People are...
When the Prime Minister told a newspaper yesterday, The Observer, he wanted 10 more years in Downing Street, how is he going to achieve that? Is he going to replace Larry the Cat?
What Keir was saying was really clear and put it into the context of what he was saying.
Do you support him?
We were elected on a decade of national renewal. We need to have that decade in office, which is why this moment in office, that we need to have it in order to see through the programme of getting growth into the economy.
Do you think he could be Prime Minister in 10 years?
I suspect it's mostly the camp that supports West Streeting as the health minister. If I'm remembering correctly, is West Streeting not, like, worse than Starmer? Isn't he one of the, like, primary architects of the, I guess, not just neoliberalization, but, like, the shifting of labor into a defunct center-right party that does nothing but privatize? Sell out turf pick me guy? Yeah. He was the person who was, like, agreeing with J.K. Rowling and stuff, like, capitulating to the right wing.
Time.
There was nothing inevitable about failure or success in politics.
Did you question why yet another ally you're being marched up the hill to really try and defend the indefensible? Did you look yourself in the mirror and think, why the hell am I doing this?
Nick, I get up in the morning and I strain at the bit for our country. I'm proud of the work that we have done in office. Do I think we're getting everything right? No. But I thank the heavens. I thank the heavens every day that I have the opportunity to serve.
Is England's left similar to the US Dems in terms of being out of touch? Their Labour is not their left, but the Labour Party is more out of touch than the American Democratic Party is, by a significant margin. Every problem with capital and financialization in the US is present in the UK, but they have an additional element, which is that the UK aristocracy never died. The elites in government in the United Kingdom, for the most part, are still educated in the same places that the actual aristocracy were 150, 200 years ago. Their media elites and many of their political elites are, like, closely intertwined with people who literally are from the same blood and bones, it and fucks, as like the aristocracy. Whereas in America, at the very least, we don't have that kind of, I mean, you have people like Bush Sr. who were the American aristocracy, I suppose, JFK. But nowadays, at least for the most part, people who work in politics in the Dems or the Republicans, like, they're like new money or just like stupid fucks. Like, they're not, like, in America, you can be a very powerful politician with no family ties, essentially. Yeah, it's really not like a requirement. There are exceptions, but by and large, it's not like a, you know, it's not like all the political power in America flows downstream from like 4 universities and 3 semi-royal families or whatever. You can just be a guy and get popular on YouTube and then be a politician, you know? Not to say wealth doesn't help, but there's a difference between wealth and lineage.
As a Secretary of State for Business,
do you think
creating opportunities.
Gordon Brown and Harriet Harm, I'm presuming Neil Kinnock is unavailable. Do you think it's right to bring in Gordon Brown? And what does that say? And Harriet Harm, you support that?
Well, every time you have challenges.
Well, the U.S. elite with the Harvard, it's actually not comparable. The like old lineage systems they have in the United Kingdom, the extent to which their elites all like went to the same university, it's much worse over there. You know, it's much worse over there. Harvard takes in a lot of people on scholarship. Not to say that there aren't like legacy families there, but it's really just not that. Yeah, not so much.
The Prime Minister has insisted he will not walk away despite the disastrous election results last week. But more than 50 Labour MPs have now called for him to go or to set a date to leave. Sir Keir says he's proved his doubters wrong in the past and will do so again. In a crucial...
Why do you care? Like, the former colonizer of your country is dying. Isn't that a good thing? Genuine question. Like, is this an English second language thing? I don't understand where you're, like, how people's brains operate. I don't understand. We're talking about the politics of a major country. What's happening? What do you mean? You shouldn't cover the politics in the UK because 250 years ago I fought a war with it? What are you talking? Genuinely, what are you talking about? You're insane. Like, I don't understand the way your mind works. I'm just going to ban you. I don't know. You're confusing me. I can't. Gaze ye not too far into the abyss. I don't understand what you're saying. You're just typing stuff. Are you a bot?
Speech this morning, he admitted his government had made mistakes, but said he got the big political...
It's not 1776 anymore. You're retarded too. Do you think if it was 1776, that would mean you shouldn't care about British politics? That's the most time you should care about British politics.
Choices right. Our political editor, Chris Mason, is following it all in Westminster and joins us now. Chris.
Yes, hello to you. A roller coaster today for the government and for the Prime Minister. And just in the last couple of minutes, 2 resignations, 2 ministerial aides, parliamentary private secretaries as they're known, the lowest level of being on the government benches, have resigned, saying that they think that the Prime Minister himself should also resign and should go. And one of those ministerial aides is the ministerial aide to Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary. What we've seen in the last couple of hours since the Prime Minister's speech is a trickle, perhaps more than a trickle, of MP after MP coming out and saying that they have lost faith, publicly coming out and saying they have lost faith in the capacity of the Prime Minister to carry on.
Really?
What a day. Here is how it's panned out so far. The Prime Minister arrived here, his job on the line. Some in his party have fretted he's not up to it for months. And then along came last week dire election results.
I get it. I feel it. And I take responsibility. I know I have my doubters. And I know I need to prove them wrong, and I will.
Sir Keir Starmer's back against the wall. He was noticeably more angry, more passionate than we often see him. And he wanted to set out who he claims to stand
I'm really
up
feeling
for.
it.
Millions of people held back because the status quo in this country does not work for them. I am fighting for them. We are fighting for them. I am their Prime Minister, and this is their government.
He said the UK should be at the heart of Europe and young people should be able to move freely into the European Union. And he said British steel should be nationalised.
So I can announce that legislation will be brought forward this week to give the government powers, subject to that public interest test, to take full national ownership of British Steel.
The audience in the room did what it could with applause, cheers and ovations to prop up a vulnerable leader. Prime Minister, do you think in your gut what you have said is enough this morning? And what do you say directly to those of your colleagues who are weighing up right now whether to back you or to suggest that you should go?
What I'm doing is setting out the response, the direction that we need to take, and the acknowledgement that in the world we live in now...
if he pushes to return to the EU and end Brexit with the safest term, it's not going to happen. Also, he's already anti-Brexit, right? But it's not going to happen. There's no uncorking that bottle. It's going to be a long time before the UK is even capable of rejoining the EU, if it ever happens.
We need a bigger response than 2024. It is a different world.
And later, he said...
I think what we witnessed with the last government was the chaos of constantly changing leaders. And it cost this country a huge amount. A huge amount. A Labour government will not inflict that on our country again.
Then, at lunchtime, a key moment, a statement from the former Minister Catherine West, who told the BBC over the weekend she was willing to begin a leadership challenge to try
Saying people in rural areas are dumber or somehow worse than affluent urbanites is counterproductive and a genuinely low IQ spiteful take. Well, it can't be a low IQ take, because if it was low IQ, it would be a position espoused by the rural people, not by me, because I'm an affluent urbanite. It's just a position supported by data.
Remove the Prime Minister. So, what is she saying now? I have reluctantly concluded that this morning's speech was too little, too late. I am hereby giving notice to Number 10 that I'm collecting names of Labour MPs to call on the Prime Minister to set a timetable for the election of a new leader in September. So, she is clearly not happy, but crucially,
anyone can hate the cosmopolitan urbanites. Are you brave enough to hate the rural poor? I am, as should every socialist.
Down from threatening a leadership challenge. But the conversations about the Prime Minister's possible successors are still feverish. There's the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, but he's not an MP, so can't challenge him now. Then there's the former Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, who lost her job after failing to pay enough tax on a flat.
We, as a party, have to do better than this. And we can only prove we mean our Labour values by putting the common interest ahead of factionalism. And we can start by accepting that Andy Burnham should never have been blocked. It was a mistake that the leadership of our party should put right.
Mr. Burnham would love to run for the leadership, but the...
I get it. Run. God, it's a mess over there.
If we don't turn things around as a party, as a government, then we'll see Nigel Farage walking up Downing Street, and that is a disaster for this country, and it's not something we're all going to stand by and let happen.
Who's this person? Labour MP, Deputy Leader Lucy Powell.
And we need to make sure that we've got all of us working together as one team, fighting the real enemy here, which is Nigel Farage and reform and the kind of politics they want to bring to this country. And we're going to fight that with everything that we've got, because we think that would be a really, really disastrous turn for this country to take.
Well, I thought that was a really personal and a really good speech that set out very clearly what motivates him. Keir is the leader of the Labour Party, he's the Prime Minister, and therefore he gets the most stick. He's the most well-known of all of us. He's the personification of the Labour Party.
I think any time you look at a person in the Labour Party speak and they have a position that you want to learn more about, you should look up how they felt about Corbyn and pull from that. So...
He did get it wrong on Jeremy Corbyn, and I've said that. And do you know what? I'm really glad that we got it wrong, because it's the people who were out there, who I was talking to, who were really worried about the cuts to school budgets, who were worried about police cuts in Manchester.
I guess she's fine. If general elections were held tomorrow, Farage is PM. Well, yeah, Farage is going to be the next prime minister, almost certainly, right? It's all good. Don't worry about it. I promise you, Corbyn is no more interested in the destruction of the United Kingdom than Starmer is. Hassan doubles down on the 9/11 take, so he's done that like a million times. He's correct. Who the fuck is Corbyn? I sentence you to 6 days of Wikipedia browsing. Your party's going to take off any day now, trust me, bro. Oh, don't worry. I mean, I've clowned on the your party thing plenty, okay? Polanski could absolutely be if they manage to replace Labour. Polanski can't replace Labour because the media will unite to defeat the Green Party. The media has absolutely no interest in seeing Polanski run as the prime ministership. They will unite against him. They already united. It'll only get worse. And if that causes him to win more, British people are sheep. That's not how it works. Would be nice. Isn't Corbyn anti-EU? Yeah. Doesn't really matter at this point, though. The UK is not going back to the EU. But yeah, no, he does have a bit of a isolationist streak. Do you see any positive outcome possible? I hear they invented pussy too sometime soon. I'll believe it when I feel it. That's fair. Your whole argument for the Reform Party winning is popular sentiment shifting back the other way once they fall. Don't you think the entire problem is only worrying about popular sentiment? No. I think that Reform and Labour will do the exact same things to the United Kingdom. I think that the downfall of the United Kingdom at this point is essentially written in stone. I think that, like, your country has, I assume you're British, has no hope. You are financialized into oblivion. Your media and political elites are in a bubble, and they are more class conscious, your old aristocracy, than the American elites are. I think that, and your people are sheep. I think that a doom comes for you. The reaper with his scythe will cull your lands. God bless you, and may a better thing come after. The only thing you can really hope for, I think, is that the negative polarization is directed against... It's clear to me that for at least a while now, and a long time coming, every prime minister of the United Kingdom will be unpopular with no exceptions. The reason for that is that the country is failing for reasons that a prime minister can't fix. There is nothing that your deadlocked, antiquated, in a bubble political system can possibly do to fix it. So if Labour's in charge, Labour will be unpopular. If Reform's in charge, Reform will be unpopular, so on and so forth. So I guess, like, if the outcome's going to be the same anyway, I'd rather the unpopularity be directed against the worst people. Because, of course, the average, like, Reform MP is far worse than the average, Labour MP. Probably true, but it's easier to say when you don't live there yourself. Bucko, I say the same thing about America, and I live in America. I just think you're a little bit farther along on the same train. I say the same thing over here. The UK and America are the most financialized real countries in the world, and as a consequence, we will experience the decline. This sounds like accelerationism. That's because you don't know what accelerationism is. Thankfully, Google's there to help you. Switzerland's not a real country. I don't know how financialized Switzerland is. My guess is that it's considerably less financialized than we are. Reform doesn't stand to the same policies as Labour, though. They're polar opposites when it comes to stuff like worker rights and nationalization. I guess we'll find out. Switzerland is an outlier because it's genuinely insanely rich. The reason Switzerland feels insanely rich is because the wealth they have is not all financialized. Switzerland has far, 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 far less money than America does, or the United Kingdom. It's just that they don't measure their wealth in the stock market, so it actually circulates a little bit more. They just do the financialization of the rest of the world. Managing banks isn't the same thing as financialization. Those aren't exactly the same things, to be clear. Though there is often an overlap. 8% of the UK's GDP is made from the financial sector. It's 9 to 9.5% in Switzerland. What I'm interested in is the money supply and the velocity of that money. The financial sector itself isn't like... Oh, here, hold on. How much of US GDP is financial sector? Yeah, 8.1% of the GDP. But a significant amount of money, far more than 8.1% of the US GDP, is roped up in not the financial sector, but the stock market, in evaluation itself. How much money runs through the financial sector isn't the same as how much money runs through financialized economic systems. Fake? It's all fake. Like, to give you an idea, if about 8% of the US GDP is it moves through the financial sector, the size of the US stock market is around $70 trillion, which, as you know, is about double the US GDP. So clearly we're talking about a beast that's not really represented by the size of the financial sector. I don't know if there's a parameter that measures what you're thinking of. Essentially, the size of the stock market. Money in the stock market is by definition not, well, there can be velocity to money in the stock market, but an overwhelming majority of the money in the stock market is not being liquidated so that you can go to your 7-Eleven and buy a candy bar. It's very simple. The higher the money velocity, the more prosperous the society. The lower the velocity, the more wealthy people rape children on your surplus labor while you sit and starve. It's math. Size of UK stock market. About 4 trillion. Which is about 120% of their GDP. We are more financialized than them. America invented money. Is there a way to measure that velocity? Yeah. Yeah, the velocity of money is a measurable statistic. Unfortunately, in order to get the real data we're looking for, you have to control for a lot of factors, and economists don't want to do that because they're all in on the deep state conspiracy to make you think that the stock market represents the wealth and prosperity of a nation, even though it definitely doesn't. I thought GDP was the total velocity of money. No. Every time NVIDIA and OpenAI jerk each other off and come in each other's mouths, the GDP goes up by $50 trillion. No actual money exchanges hands, though. Like, the GDP is affected by a whole bunch of financial fuckery that has nothing to do with people actually making money and spending that money on stuff they need to live, you know? All the financial bullshit that happens in Silicon Valley, all of that represents, like, a growth to the GDP, but it doesn't, like, no one's buying or selling anything. We're talking about, like, speculative investments on future contracts for the sales of chips that don't exist, you know? Like, it's like multiple levels of fake. You might be right, Nuts. I'd need to read more about that. Value of fiat currency and gold or opinions? Nothing that I'm talking about right now has anything to do with, like, the gold standard or whatever. I'm just talking about how much money. I feel like you could do, like, an example on that. You could do, like, a comparative analysis between, like, you know, that would actually be a really interesting... That would be a really interesting study to do. Okay, follow through with me here, okay? Imagine you could do an analysis of a town in, like, 1950 and today. Say you have the same town. And in both of those periods of time for the same town, you take a bunch of statistics about, like, the cost of living, which, again, is variable and subjectively determined, but you could find a standard measurement. The average income, the total amount of money owned by all residents of the town, you know, average rent, da-da-da-da-da. And what I'd be interested in seeing is, like, and I know this is true, in the 1950s, if you had a small middle-class town, let's say 10,000 people live there and you have a fairly normalized income distribution between them. You have some poor people, a few rich people, mostly middle-class-ish people in the 1950s, and then you have that same town today. The interesting dichotomy that I would want to examine is the total money owned by the residents of the town. Very simple, right? Total value of assets minus debts of all people who live in the town together. Obviously, the number today would be higher than before. You'd adjust for inflation, but my guess is that even after adjusting for inflation, the number would be very different between then and now. Versus total amount of money paid out in wages in that town. Or, in other words, how much money is there in the town owned versus how much of it is moving through transaction. And maybe not necessarily wages. You could go through transactional sales. How much money is being paid in rent? How much is being paid in groceries? How much is being paid in wages? All the ways in which money moves in reality. And my guess is that while both numbers have gone up over the past 76 years, from 1950 to today, the amount of total wealth has grown astronomically, whereas the amount of wealth actually spent has grown only a little bit, relatively a little bit. And that's because a lot of the money you make just isn't being used anymore. Even for middle-class families, a lot of their wealth is held up in speculative real estate, right? The value of their house, and also in retirements and savings accounts. Like you build a nest egg because you need like $1 million to retire or more. So you're not spending that money, so it never circulates, so nobody gets to use it, so everyone ends up poorer. Like it doesn't trickle down, it doesn't get used. And in a practical sense, if everyone feels like they need to save $1 million for retirement, but nobody has any excess money to go out and spend, everyone is poor, even if they're sitting on like $500,000 in their retirement accounts. If you can't access that money, if it's not liquid, it's not usable. And if it's not usable, it's not contributing to the economy. And if it's not contributing to the economy, then there's no money to pay people to do things. You need the money to move. Not to mention, like, nowadays, a lot of the money that you pay out doesn't even stay in the community, you know? If you shop at local businesses, the money stays local. But if you shop at Walmart, the money gets fettered away into some gigantic global fucking transnational account, you know? Nothing stays local. Everything just gets siphoned upwards. It never gets siphoned downwards. There are no economic systems that distribute money from the ultra-wealthy downwards, but there are a million that distribute money upwards.